Welcome to this video. Today we need to talk about MSTR, MicroStrategy. This company owns over 3% of all the Bitcoin in the world, and it has collapsed massively in the last few months, and it's down almost 80% from all-time highs. So in this deep dive stock analysis video, we're going to go over the fundamentals, latest news and technicals, and we're going to find out whether this is a great buying opportunity for the long-term investor. So buckle up and let's dive right in. So we're now looking here on TradingView. The market is going to open soon, and we can see that it's trading in the pre-market at $114, $115. And we can see here on daily candles that it went all the way down. So from all-time highs, it's down roughly almost 80%, which is insane. And we can see that here it went all the way down. It kind of looks like capitulation, and we can see it was extremely oversold. So maybe this could be a potential bottom. Well, if we look here at the Bitcoin price, we can see that it's now trading at $67,000, and we can see it's forming a bullish candle. This bullish pin bar could indicate more upside, at least in the short term. So what exactly is Strategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy? Well, we can read here that it's the world's first and largest Bitcoin treasury company and the largest independent publicly traded business intelligence company. Essentially, their whole business model is to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible. And they own over 3% of all the Bitcoin worldwide. And so if you're bullish on Bitcoin, then you could potentially buy Strategy and even get higher returns because they use leverage. So their whole strategy behind Strategy is to buy as much Bitcoin as possible. And that's basically the vision of Michael Saylor. He believes Bitcoin will go to the moon essentially, and it is the future. And that in the long term, that Bitcoin will rise over time. So their strategy is to buy as much Bitcoin and just hold for the long term. And we can see here that MicroStrategy is now up 15% already because it was extremely oversold recently. So we're now here on GuruFocus to get a quick financial overview of the company. GuruFocus gives it a score of a 58 out of 100. And I also think that MicroStrategy is a high risk, high reward company. And they are very dependent on the Bitcoin price, and they use leverage, which makes it a little bit more risky. So if we look at the financial strength, we can see it's a 4 out of 10 because of the debt that they're taking, and they're also not really profitable. And we can see here that the net income was actually very negative. It's like minus $1 billion. And we can see that the debt is around almost $8 billion. So they take on debt and they're losing money. But compared to their total Bitcoin holdings, and if Bitcoin can grow at like 20% every year, then this is not a problem at all. If you want to learn how to master stock analysis like a pro and find winning stocks and beat the market so you can build a portfolio that consistently wins, then feel free to check the link in the description down below. Is MicroStrategy cheap or expensive? Well, one way to find out whether MSTR is undervalued or not is to look at its current Bitcoin holdings. So how much Bitcoin do they even own? Well, they own around 713,502 Bitcoin, which is roughly $47.13 billion. And the market cap of the stock, so MicroStrategy market cap, is 30.74 billion. So it's lower than the Bitcoin holdings. But they also have a lot of debt. So MicroStrategy net debt is 8.17 billion. So what does this mean? Well, the enterprise value of MSTR is the market cap plus net debt is 30.74 billion plus 8.17 billion is $38.9 billion. So what's the enterprise value? Well, the enterprise value is essentially the total price you pay for the entire business, and that is $38.9 billion. And we can see that the Microsoft Bitcoin holdings, which is here 47 billion, is larger than the enterprise value of 38.9 billion. And this suggests that MSTR could be massively undervalued, which is interesting for the long-term investor. So MicroStrategy could sell small portions of Bitcoin as well and buy their own stock to push their stock to fair value based on Bitcoin holdings. So this could also happen in the future. And basically what it means, they sell a little bit of their Bitcoin holdings, they buy their own stock until the enterprise value and the Bitcoin holdings are more equal. And that can push the prices of MSTR higher. So based on the current Bitcoin holdings enterprise value, we can say that MicroStrategy could be undervalued right now. Another indicator that suggests that Bitcoin could be undervalued is that their average cost price of Strategy is around $76,000 and Bitcoin is now at $68,000. So that could suggest that Strategy thinks that Bitcoin is much more valuable than $68,000, and they believe that it will go much higher. So this could also be a small indication that buying right now Bitcoin could give you a margin of safety. Because it's always very tricky to find out whether Bitcoin is cheap or expensive, because it's like a speculative asset in certain ways. Even here on Alpha Spread, they also suggest that MicroStrategy could be undervalued based on their intrinsic value, and they use like a discounted cash flow model, and they also take into account the relative value, and they come to a conclusion that it's like undervalued by 50%. So what are the risks of this company? Because MSTR also carries a lot of risk. Well, the first risk is that it's completely dependent on Bitcoin. So there's a Bitcoin risk. MSTR's value closely follows Bitcoin, so its stock swings a lot when crypto moves. So you're dependent on the Bitcoin price. If Bitcoin doesn't do well, then this company is impossible to do well over time. But if you believe in Bitcoin, then MSTR could be an interesting option. But there's also another risk, is that they use high debt. So the company has over $8 billion in debt and preferred stock, increasing financial risk. And that makes it more risky because they take on leverage to buy like the Bitcoin, because they try to acquire as much as possible. And that's why you see the stock price move more. So that's the third risk. It's a volatile stock. Its price is extremely volatile with big swings up and down. And then you could also consider, right, maybe it's safer to just buy Bitcoin directly yourself instead of MicroStrategy. But I think that MicroStrategy is an interesting stock to put like a small portion of your portfolio, like 1%, for example. So you risk 1% to make like 10, 20, or 30%. Because if Bitcoin goes up, and if this is the bottom, then MicroStrategy can do easy 10 times, 20 times, or 30 times your investment. And that's what makes this stock very interesting for investors. But I would only allocate a very small percentage because of the volatility and the risk that carries the stock. So here we can see the top assets by market cap. And Bitcoin used to be in the top 5, but now it went all the way down to number 13 at a market cap of $1.359 trillion. But Strategy believes that Bitcoin could be the number 1 asset. So here is the Wall Street sheet on the psychology of a market cycle. So every asset, whether it's Bitcoin or the S&P 500 or an individual stock or MSTR, they go through cycles. And here we can see all these cycles that a stock goes through. And we see this a lot of times happen. And it's important to be aware of it. And that's why I only allocate like a small percentage to a stock like MSTR, because of the volatility that is involved. So you reduce the emotion so you don't make irrational decisions. And I believe that in this cycle that MSTR is like in the capitulation cycle. Because there was this massive panic, the stock went all the way down, straight down, and now it's bouncing up a little bit. So we're between the capitulation and anger cycle. And sometimes it can take a long time before the rally starts up, or there could be a V-shaped recovery. But I think it's important that if you invest like a small portion, for example, that you are extremely, extremely patient, but because it's not always a guarantee that there's like a V-shaped recovery. So we're back here on the charts on TradingView, and it's now trading at $124. And MSTR is up 16%, so it seems that it's recovered. This looks like capitulation, and there's a good chance that we can go at least to the moving averages. I think that this company looks pretty undervalued right now, in my opinion, but I would only allocate a small percentage of my portfolio because it is very volatile and it is very risky, and maybe buying Bitcoin directly could be a more safer option. But I think that this company offers an interesting opportunity. And it looks pretty low right now. But it's also important that even if you put a small allocation in it, that you need to be extremely patient, because it's not always a guarantee that we go up straight to the moon. But yeah, I think buying right now could give you a margin of safety based on the current value of Bitcoin. Of course, always do your own research. This video is for educational purpose only. But if you like this kind of content, feel free to like and subscribe for more videos. And if you're interested in a step-by-step video guide on how to master stock analysis and build a winning portfolio, then click the link in the description down below. That being said, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.